Well, I think that the biggest challenge we have is how to take advantage of the opportunity, because the world is looking for new solutions, and you see that particularly with young people. You see a recognition that the models of business that we've relied on have limits, and people realize that, and they're very receptive to listening to new approaches. And so the challenge for cooperatives is, how do we tell our story? And cooperatives haven't necessarily made that a priority. You know, we go about doing our work and we do it well, and we expand what we're doing in increasing ways, but we're not very good about getting the message out about what a solution we are for many of the problems that the world is facing. So we need to be better about telling that story and getting people to see that, that this is an approach that is working, that it has scale, that it has impact, and we have a wonderful opportunity now with the International Year to do just that. So again, the challenge is rising to the opportunity and making sure that we don't miss this window when the UN is willing to lend its name and its prestige to cooperatives and give us this opportunity to explain to people who we are, what we do, and how we can help them. Well, I think that it is probably often the case that the organizations that are on the ground in any field are the ones who are having to respond first to changing public needs. And then the organizations that support them are maybe one step further removed, and so it sometimes can take a little bit of time before they wake up and realize that the needs of their clients and the organizations they're supporting have changed because the public need has changed and the environment has changed. And we're going through that at ICA, at the International Cooperative Alliance, is making certain that what we're offering today is what our members need today. We were founded in 1895, and we see ourselves as the stewards of the values and principles of the cooperative movement, and that's all great, that's essential, somebody has to do that. But we have to be certain that we're not living in 1895. We have to be relevant to 2011 and now coming up with the International Year in 2012. And so we're in touch with our members to make certain that we are hearing from them what we need to do. Increasingly, they're saying, in addition to providing the opportunity for solidarity, in addition to providing the opportunity, the venue for inter-cooperation, in addition to that, they want us to be relevant to their business. They want to make certain that we are giving them access to the best information about best practices in cooperatives. Who's growing, who's effective at governance, who is attracting new members, what are they doing to do that, how do they get that information? And so we are having to transform, or actually wanting to, excited by transforming our systems to put that skill set in place. And when I talk to the supporting organizations around the cooperative movement, you know, the cooperative colleges, for example, they're doing the same thing. They're all trying to make certain that they are relevant today in a world that's changing very quickly. I think we're just beginning to see how the movement is going to be changed by the environment we're in. Part of what we're responding to now is financial. It's because the financial systems have changed, the economic environment has changed on a macro level, and we're finding the way to seize those opportunities. Looming just ahead is an opportunity that we can't afford to miss, which is to pull into cooperatives the next generation. Mm-hmm. When I travel around and talk to cooperatives about their challenges for the future, one that I keep hearing from leaders is, we have to attract younger people. How do we make sure that the model we have is attractive to younger people? And part of the answer to that is making certain that we're open to letting the next generation change the model, adapt it, make sure it's robust and of their time in the future. We have a generation that is so connected through social networking, through Twitter, through Facebook, and that participates in crowdsourcing, in wiki sites, and that sees the opportunity to collaborate in a virtual way around the world. That's an audience for whom the message of cooperation ought to resonate. They may want to shift that a little bit in the future, but we need to make sure that they're introduced to the concept of cooperatives, and so that they understand that that's exactly the kind of approach to business, exactly the kind of approach to problem solving in their lives that they've been using, that they grew up with, and that they're very comfortable with in a social network. And I think that will, in itself, pull a lot of younger people in, but we can't then say, here's how it works. We have to let them help shape it for the future as well. It is core to where ICA is going, because it's core to what our members are telling us they need us to be doing. If you look at where we can be of benefit to them, we believe part of that is as a voice for the cooperative movement. We need to represent cooperative interests on a global level, the United Nations, International Accounting Standards Board, similar groups. We also need to provide a venue for intercooperation. Underlying all of that is knowledge. We need to have good data. We can't be a voice if we don't have good data. We can't help them with their business needs if we don't have good data. And so we're investing now in exactly that. It's building the data that we've been collecting, but we've been collecting kind of raw numbers of individual members. We have very good financial information on a very limited number of cooperatives, the Global 300. We need to grow that to be 3,000 organizations. We need to analyze that so we understand how the cooperative movement is growing country by country in different parts of the world. We need to segment that increasingly into sectoral information so that we can analyze growth in cooperative banking, in agriculture, in tourism, in each of the different categories of sectors, because the business demands are different, the business trends are different, the impact is different. We need that information. And fortunately, we have the basic structure right now that we can build on. And it's a question of improving the systems we have. Also, fortunately, everybody we talk to in the cooperative movement wants us to do that, so we have a receptive audience. We're not having to convince people that this is necessary and wasting time explaining that, making the case. Everybody is thirsty for this. They're saying, give us the data, show us the data. And so we are investing in that now. We're investing within the limited resources we have. And so the challenge we all have is making certain that the demands that are placed on us by our clients, our members, whoever they are then followed with the resources to really make certain that we can provide that, meet that demand with the integrity and the professionalism that it's going to require. Yeah, I think there is a very strong sense of innovation in cooperatives. And I think that has been true since 1895. When we look backwards, we tend to see it dated in a period, again, of its time, but it was very innovative in its time, and it continues to attract people who are thinking about the world in a very different way, who think about sustainability in a different way than other businesses think about sustainability. And there is a passion that I've found that cooperators have that fuels innovation, and that in turn fuels entrepreneurship. There's a different sense of risk, and the risk is not always a financial risk, but it's an intellectual risk. It's the willingness to be creative and try new ideas, and that is what fuels the growth in cooperation that we've seen, even when the financial environment has been so challenged in so many parts of the world. Now, we are trying to be innovative at ICA as well. We don't have a lot of choice. If we're not innovative, if we're not changing to meet the needs of our members, then our members will not continue to support us. They know how to vote. They vote with their membership dues and with their fees. We try to listen well and be responsive to what they're telling us, and we learn from them at the same time. we need to do a better job of communicating across the cooperative network what are some of the best ideas that we're seeing, because that really does help to spur not just dissemination of that idea, but that local creativity. When people say, well, I should be coming up with an idea like that. We can adapt that in a different way. And we see ourselves at ICA as a venue for that to happen, as a forum where these ideas can sort of funnel in and where people can be challenged by one another to think in a new way. And then hopefully we're benefiting from that ourselves by thinking a little differently. The kind of relationship that we have with EURICSI and with other key supporters in the cooperative community are also very helpful, because it gets us into a different conversation than we have just with our members, or than we have just if we talk to people within ICA itself, because there's an academic environment that can change the nature of that dialogue. And that too is where entrepreneurial thinking comes from. It comes from that cross-discipline, interdisciplinary exposure to new ideas. Well, it's been fascinating for me. I mean, I just came in September 1st to this role, and it's a real privilege to be here, particularly at this point in time, because there is the convergence of what the world needs, which is in large part what the cooperatives have to offer. The convergence of that with this UN opportunity to tell the story, and the willingness and interest and excitement on the part of cooperatives to tell the story. So for me coming in, this is an exciting time to be starting. I was heading up a large nonprofit organization in the United States. It had good scale and impact, about $1 billion US dollars a year in turnover and about 15,000 full-time employees. It was not a cooperative, but it was aligned with many of the values. So we provided social housing, health care, outreach services to homeless people. It was a wide range of services. Before that, I practiced law at a large law firm in Washington, D.C., with a banking practice and a healthcare practice in particular. So I can't say that this was all a well thought out plan, but there actually have been a lot of convergence of the path I've been on. And what I do see is the opportunity to really capitalize on the scale and the impact of the cooperative movement. And there is granular competence and impact on the ground. And what we need to do is be able to capture the message of all of those stories locally to be able to tell a global impact. And so the work I was doing before I came here was a lot about that, is how do you tell the story of an organization that is doing this on the ground in this community and this here, and looks small in different places, but when you put it all together, it has a huge impact. Because people want to know, apart from the anecdotal stories, they want to know that you're actually making a difference that is of a scale that it will actually move the needle on some of these problems, that you can actually be making a difference. There is also, I'm very aware of the need for us to get into business schools, to get into law schools, and to make certain that the professional community and the training that is occurring for the next generation is exposed to cooperatives. And I know from my own background in law that I wasn't. That simply was not a model that was taught when I went to law school. And so when clients came to us about establishing a business, we didn't say, well, you ought to think about a cooperative. We said, well, here's a partnership. You want an LLC, you want a corporation. And we need to get ahead of that. Now, there's time to do that, and there'll be time to do that after the international year. ICA is very focused in 2012 in making certain that we have a public awareness campaign that gets out the message that cooperatives are values-based enterprises. Once we get that out, we can then target the messages in subsequent years to be very focused on legislative community, academic community, law schools, business schools, youth. But right now we need to begin to get that message exposed.